Welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure.
Today, we're going deep into the world of British politics.
Okay.
We're going to be exploring the ancestry of former Prime Minister David Cameron.
Fascinating.
Yeah, as detailed in Nigel Cawthorne's biography, David Cameron, Class Act.
You know, this biography is quite captivating.
Yeah,
It reveals so much about the man behind the public persona.
right.
You might think of David Cameron as a self-made politician,
Uh-huh.
but Cawthorne paints a very different picture,
Okay.
one that's rich with Scottish, Welsh, English, and even Jewish heritage.
It's incredible how much history is packed into a single family tree.
Right.
And Cawthorne doesn't shy away from the complexities.
No, not at all.
He even starts the book with Cameron's own words,
Oh, interesting.
describing himself as a real mixture. Which is a bit of an understatement when you consider everything we uncover in this deep dive.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
It almost feels like Cawthorne is challenging Cameron's self-proclaimed mixture narrative, subtly suggesting that it might be more about carefully crafted image management than a genuine reflection of his background.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's...
Cawthorne begins with Cameron's paternal line,
Okay.
taking us all the way back to Scotland and a family seat near Culloden.
Hello! Wow.
Now, for those who need a quick history refresher,
Yes.
Culloden was the site of a major battle in 1746,
Right.
essentially crushing the Jacobite rising and solidifying British rule in Scotland.
A pivotal moment in history.
Yeah, and this is where we encounter Ewen Cameron,
Okay.
David Cameron's great-great-grandfather.
Great-great-grandfather Ewen.
Yeah, starting in Scottish banking.
Okay.
He ends up in Hong Kong,
Interesting.
rising through the ranks of HSBC.
Wow, a global banking giant, even back then.
Right, he even earned a knighthood for his contributions to the world of finance.
It's a classic tale of ambition and success.
It is.
But what I found fascinating is how Cawthorne links Ewan's journey to the broader expansion of British influence in the 19th century. It's like Ewan's personal story mirrors the rise of British financial power on a global scale.
Yes, and Cawthorne further emphasizes this connection by detailing Ewan's role in securing loans for Japan during the Russo-Japanese War,
Oh, wow.
further establishing his influence on the international stage.
It's these details that make this deep dive so compelling. It's not just about listing ancestors.
Right.
It's about understanding how their lives intersect with major historical events
Yeah.
and how those events, in turn, shape their descendants.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears to Cameron's maternal side,
Okay.
we encounter a fascinating figure, Emile Levita,
Emile Levita.
his great-great-grandfather.
Okay.
This is where the Jewish heritage comes into play.
Interesting.
And Cawthorne dives into this lineage, referencing Dr. Yakov Wise,
Okay.
a fellow at the University of Manchester,
Yeah.
who traces Emile's ancestry back to the Levite tribe,
Wow.
even suggesting a potential connection to Moses.
But what I find particularly interesting is how Cawthorne then focuses on Emile's integration into English society.
Yeah.
He owned a grouse moor, which, as you might know, was a quintessential symbol of status and acceptance within the British aristocracy.
It's almost like Cawthorne is highlighting a deliberate attempt by Emile to assimilate into the upper echelons of British society.
Right.
Sending his sons to Eton, one of the most prestigious schools in the world, further solidifies this notion.
Yes, and this sets the stage for understanding the ingrained privilege that runs through Cameron's lineage.
Okay.
It's not just about distant ancestors. It's about the conscious choices made by generations to maintain and solidify their position within the British elite.
It's like Cawthorne is subtly challenging the idea of David Cameron as a self-made man.
Exactly.
He's showing us how deeply embedded Cameron is within a system of inherited wealth and social standing.
And to further illuminate this point, Cawthorne introduces us to Steffi Cooper, who married one of Emile's sons. Steffi's family is where we encounter some truly surprising connections.
Okay.
Her grandmother was Lady Elizabeth Fitzclarence,
Okay.
the daughter of King William IV, and his actress Mistress Dorothea Jordan.
So if you follow the lineage, that means David Cameron is distantly related to Queen Elizabeth II.
It's a fascinating revelation, isn't it?
It is.
And it adds another layer to Cawthorne's subtle critique of Cameron's public image.
Yeah.
The man who presented himself as a man of the people
Right.
actually has royal blood flowing through his veins.
And the royal connections don't stop there.
Oh, really?
Steffi's father, Sir Alfred Cooper, was a royal surgeon.
And quite a colorful character. He specialized in treating venereal diseases.
Wow.
Even boasting, as Cawthorne highlights, about examining half the peers in London.
It's a detail that adds a touch of scandal to this already intriguing family history.
Right.
But beyond the salacious anecdotes, what stands out to me is how Cawthorne continues to weave this narrative of power and privilege.
He then brings in Steffi's brother, Duff Cooper, a prominent conservative politician, adding yet another layer of political influence to Cameron's family tree.
It's like every branch of this family leads to some figure of power or influence.
It really is.
But then Cawthorne takes us down a path that's less about glittering titles and more about a darker chapter in British history. He reveals a connection to General Sir James Duff,
Okay.
a distant relative on Steffi's side of the family. And this connection is particularly significant because General Duff owned a sugar plantation in Jamaica
A sugar plantation.
with over 200 slaves.
Wow.
Cawthorne details how Duff received substantial compensation when slavery was abolished in the British Empire.
This part of the biography is crucial
Yeah.
because it forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality of how deeply ingrained slavery was in British society
Right.
and how that legacy continues to impact us today.
And it's particularly relevant when considering David Cameron's political career.
Absolutely.
It raises questions about whether he ever acknowledged this aspect of his family history. And what, if any, responsibility he felt for the actions of his ancestors.
It's a complex issue,
Is.
and Cawthorne doesn't offer easy answers.
No, he doesn't.
But by bringing it to light, he's challenging us to think critically about how the past continues to shape the present, especially regarding issues of race, inequality, and the legacy of colonialism.
It's a sobering reminder that even those who seem to embody privilege and power are often entangled in histories that are far from glamorous.
Yeah.
And it raises important questions about the responsibility individuals bear
Right.
for acknowledging and addressing the darker aspects of their family's past.
Absolutely. And it certainly does make you think about the complexities of history and how it intertwines with individual lives.
Right.
But Cawthorne then shifts the focus to a more personal story,
Okay.
that of David Cameron's father, Ian.
And Ian's story is truly remarkable.
Oh.
He was born with severely deformed legs
Wow.
and endured countless operations throughout his childhood.
That's incredible.
Yet, despite these immense challenges,
Yeah.
Ian's mother instilled in him this belief in his own abilities,
Okay.
encouraged him to overcome his disability.
It's a testament to the power of resilience and determination.
It is.
Cawthorne highlights how Ian became an avid sportsman at Eton,
Really?
excelling in activities like shooting and fishing, defying the limitations imposed by his physical condition.
It's almost as if Cawthorne is subtly drawing a parallel between Ian's personal triumphs
Okay.
and the expectations placed upon David Cameron.
Right.
This idea of overcoming adversity,
Yeah.
of pushing beyond perceived limitations, seems to be a recurring theme in the Cameron family narrative.
That's a keen observation.
Yeah.
And it's further emphasized when Cawthorne introduces us to Ian's second wife, Mary Mount, whose family embodies the epitome of a British political dynasty.
The Mount family's involvement in politics can be traced back centuries
Well,
to Sir William Mount,
okay.
with a long line of MPs and high sheriffs.
So they were deeply entrenched in the British political system.
They were wielding considerable influence and power.
Cawthorne even connects them to the Earl of Shrewsbury, the premier Earl of England,
Wow.
drawing a comparison to other influential families like the Cecils and the Churchills.
Oh, wow.
It's a clear indication of the Mount family's enduring legacy within the British aristocracy.
And it's not just about political influence.
Right.
Cawthorne also delves into the family's financial success,
Okay.
particularly their involvement with Panmure Gordon,
Panmure Gordon.
a prominent stockbroking firm.
This is where the economic aspect of privilege comes into sharp focus.
Yeah.
Cawthorne explains how the Big Bang deregulation of London's financial sector in the 1980s
Okay.
dramatically increased Panmure Gordon's value,
Okay.
resulting in significant wealth for Ewen Cameron.
And for those unfamiliar with the Big Bang,
Yes.
it essentially removed many regulations in the financial industry,
Okay.
leading to increased competition and a surge in trading activity. However, it also widened the gap between the rich and the poor,
Right.
further benefiting those already in positions of wealth, like the Cameron family.
It's an important point to consider
Yeah.
because It highlights how David Cameron's background is not simply about inherited wealth and social connections.
Right.
It's also about benefiting from economic policies that favored the wealthy, solidifying his family's position within the upper echelons of British society.
It's like Cawthorn is meticulously constructing a narrative that challenges the notion of a level playing field.
I see.
David Cameron, even before entering politics, was already operating from a position of immense privilege.
Right.
Both socially and economically.
Precisely now with this backdrop of inherited privilege.
Okay.
Cawthorn takes us into David Cameron's childhood,
Okay.
starting with his idyllic upbringing in the quaint village of Peasmore.
It's a world of traditional values and structured routines, with a tennis court, a swimming pool,
Wow.
and all the trappings of a comfortable upper-class lifestyle. The children enjoyed country pursuits, like shooting rabbits and pigeons,
Really?
activities that further emphasize their separation from the realities of everyday life for most Britons.
And Cawthorn emphasizes how Cameron's parents instilled in him a strong sense of discipline and a belief in hard work.
This is where the messaging gets really interesting.
Right.
Cawthorn even mentions how Ewen Cameron, despite his own physical challenges, never complained and constantly pushed his children to strive for excellence.
Oh, wow.
It's almost as if he was preparing them for a life of leadership and responsibility.
Yes, and this emphasis on self-reliance and a strong work ethic becomes even more pronounced.
Okay.
When Cawthorn takes us to Cameron's time at Heatherdown Preparatory School.
Heatherdown was known for its exclusivity,
Right.
catering to the children of the British elite, including royalty and aristocracy. Prince Andrew and Prince Edward were even alumni.
Wow.
It was a world steeped in tradition and hierarchy, with a focus on instilling good manners and a sense of noblesse oblige.
This idea of noblesse oblige, this duty that comes with privilege, is crucial to understanding Cameron's worldview.
Okay.
He was raised with a sense of entitlement, a belief that he was destined for greatness, and that his actions carried a greater weight than those of ordinary people.
It's a far cry from the experiences of most children. And it's hard to imagine how someone raised in this environment could truly understand the challenges faced by those from less privileged backgrounds.
And yet Cawthorn suggests that Cameron was not entirely unaware of the world outside his privileged bubble.
Okay.
He details how Cameron was made to do chores, even cleaning toilets.
Really?
To instill a sense of humility and responsibility.
It's an interesting contradiction. On one hand, he's being groomed for a life of power and influence. While on the other hand, he's being taught the value of hard work and humility. It makes you wonder how these conflicting messages shaped his outlook on the world.
And of course, after Heatherdown, it was on to Eton, arguably the most prestigious school in England.
Eton is practically synonymous with British privilege.
It is.
And Cawthorn portrays Cameron as a typical Etonian, a confident, rebellious in a controlled way, but ultimately fitting comfortably within that world of inherited status and power.
And it's at Eton that we see a glimpse of Cameron's political ambitions taking shape.
Oh, really?
He excels in history and politics, demonstrating a keen intellect and a developing understanding of the complexities of power.
But Cawthorn also highlights Cameron's youthful indiscretions, including an incident involving cannabis that resulted in him copying out 500 lines of Latin text as punishment.
It's a reminder that even those destined for greatness have their moments of rebellion, their attempts to push against the boundaries set by their up. But it also suggests that consequences for those in Cameron's circle were often different than they would be for others.
It's a subtle but important point, highlighting the inherent inequalities that exist within the British system. Even youthful indiscretions are handled differently depending on one's social standing.
And this theme of privilege and its implications continues as Cawthorn details Cameron's gap year experiences before heading off to Oxford University.
He worked for his godfather, a member of Parliament, gaining valuable insights into the world of politics. But he also embarked on adventures. Traveling to Hong Kong.
Interesting.
Working as a shipping agent.
Wow.
And even traversing the Trans-Siberian Railway.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition.
It is.
On one hand, he's being exposed to the inner workings of British politics. While on the other hand, he's broadening his horizons, experiencing different cultures, and gaining a wider perspective on the world.
It makes you wonder how these diverse experiences shaped his worldview. and whether they truly challenge the assumptions ingrained in him from his privileged upbringing.
And speaking of Oxford, that's where Cawthorne takes us next.
Okay.
Cameron attended Brasenose College.
Brasenose College.
Another bastion of British academia and exclusivity.
Brasenose is known for its rigorous academic standards.
Yeah.
And its reputation for attracting students from wealthy and influential families.
Of course.
Cawthorne describes Cameron as a hardworking student.
Okay.
Aiming for a first-class honors degree, but also indulging in the social side of university life.
And this social life included membership in the infamous Bullingdon Club.
Bullingdon Club.
A notoriously exclusive all-male dining club known for its boisterous behavior, heavy drinking, and destructive pranks.
The Bullingdon Club is almost a caricature of upper-class excess and entitlement.
Right.
Cawthorne doesn't hold back on the details.
I bet.
Describing the club's elaborate tailcoats.
Okay.
The trashed restaurants.
Oh my.
And the general air of being above the rules.
It's a side of Cameron that clashes with his later image as a modern, compassionate conservative.
Right.
And it raises questions about whether this behavior was simply youthful exuberance or a reflection of a deeper sense of entitlement.
Cawthorne even includes quotes from journalists who worked with Cameron at Carlton Television, describing him as slippery, aggressive, and even a smarmy bully.
Wow.
It's not exactly the image of a future prime minister known for his charm and charisma.
It's a reminder that public image is often a carefully constructed facade designed to appeal to a particular audience.
Right.
And it makes you wonder how much of Cameron's political success was due to his ability to mask this less palatable side of his personality.
It's a fascinating question.
It is.
And it speaks to the power of image management in contemporary politics.
Absolutely.
But amidst all this talk of privilege and excess, Cawthorne introduces us to Samantha Sheffield.
Okay.
The woman who would become David Cameron's wife.
And Samantha's background is just as intriguing as Cameron's.
It is.
She's the daughter of a baronet, a descendant of King Charles II.
Wow.
And her family is steeped in aristocratic tradition and wealth.
They own sprawling estates and moved within the highest circles of British society.
Right.
But Cawthorne also highlights how Samantha, despite her posh upbringing, had a bit of a rebellious streak.
Oh, interesting.
She went through a goth phase.
Wow.
Had a dolphin tattoo.
Really?
And even hung out with musicians and artists who were far removed from her family's world.
It's as if she was trying to carve out her own identity, separate from the expectations and constraints of her privileged upbringing.
It's an interesting contrast to Cameron's more traditional path.
Right.
And it makes their relationship all the more intriguing.
Their meeting at a party, as Cawthorne describes it, was almost a clash of worlds. Samantha initially had no interest in politics, and her bohemian friends found the idea of her dating a conservative rather amusing.
But as their relationship developed, Samantha's role shifted. She embraced the life of a politician's wife, supporting Cameron's ambitions, and even using her family connections to further his career.
Cawthorne even details how Samantha helped Cameron secure a job at Carlton Television.
Oh, really?
A move that proved to be pivotal in shaping his understanding of media and his ability to control the narrative.
And it's at Carlton that we see a different side of Cameron emerge. He's described as ambitious, ruthless, and willing to do whatever it takes to succeed.
It's a far cry from the charming, compassionate persona he would later cultivate as a politician.
Right.
And it raises questions about the authenticity of his public image. And the lengths to which he was willing to go to achieve his political goals.
So we've seen how David Cameron's upbringing and early career experiences shaped his worldview and ambitions.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It really is.
And Cawthorne takes us now into the heart of British politics, detailing Cameron's entry into Parliament and his rise to the leadership of the Conservative Party.
It's fascinating how Cawthorne frames this period.
Yeah.
Here's a man born into privilege,
with
connections that could open doors most people only dream of. Yet he still faces setbacks in his pursuit of a parliamentary seat.
Almost ironic, isn't it?
It is.
He loses an election in 1997. Which Cawthorne uses to highlight the evolving political landscape of Britain at the time. The Labour Party under Tony Blair was ascendant, And the Conservatives were struggling to find their footing.
And it's in this context that Cameron learns valuable lessons about political strategy and the need to adapt to changing demographics and voters' sentiment.
It's a crucial time for him.
It is. He eventually wins a seat in 2001, representing Witney in Oxfordshire.
Cawthorne doesn't just gloss over this period. He delves into the nuances of Cameron's early years in Parliament, showing us how he navigates the complexities of Westminster, builds relationships, and hones his political skills.
And it's during this time that we see a shift in Cameron's public persona.
Oh, really?
He begins to distance himself from the more traditional aristocratic image of the Conservative Party. Advocating for a more modern, compassionate conservatism.
Interesting.
He even embraces the nickname Dave,
as
Cawthorne points out, in an effort to appear more approachable and relatable to a wider electorate.
It's a calculated move, isn't it?
It is a deliberate strategy to shed the image of the Tories as the party of the wealthy elite. And position them as a party that understands the needs of everyday people.
And this shift in messaging is crucial to understanding Cameron's eventual success. He recognizes that the Conservative Party needs to evolve if it wants to remain relevant in a changing Britain.
But while Cawthorne details Cameron's political maneuvering, he also reminds us that this is a period of immense personal challenges for Cameron and his wife Samantha. Their son Ivan was born with severe cerebral palsy and epilepsy.
Oh, wow.
And they were navigating the complexities of raising a child with significant disabilities.
Cawthorne handles this aspect of the story with sensitivity and compassion.
He does.
Highlighting the strength and resilience of both David and Samantha as they face these incredibly difficult circumstances.
It's a reminder that even those in positions of power are not immune to life's hardships.
That's true.
And that personal experiences can profoundly shape one's outlook on the world.
And while Cameron was dealing with these personal challenges, he was also steadily rising through the ranks of the Conservative Party.
Cawthorne details how Cameron challenges the old guard, advocating for modernization and a broader appeal to voters who had traditionally turned away from the Conservatives.
This is where we see Cameron's political acumen come to the forefront. He understands that the party needs to change if it wants to regain power. And he's willing to take risks to achieve that goal.
Cawthorne meticulously lays out Cameron's strategy, highlighting his focus on issues like the environment and social justice, his effective use of social media, and his ability to connect with voters on a personal level.
And this strategy ultimately leads to Cameron becoming the leader of the Conservative Party.
Defeating the more experienced David Davis in the leadership contest.
It's a victory that surprises many.
It does.
But Cawthorne shows how Cameron's calculated approach and his ability to appeal to a wider electorate paved the way for his success.
And then, of course, comes the 2010 general election, which resulted in a hung parliament.
A hung parliament.
With no single party winning a majority of seats.
This unexpected outcome forced the Conservatives to form a coalition government.
It did.
With the Liberal Democrats.
The Liberal Democrats.
Our party with a very different political ideology.
It was a bold and unprecedented move.
It was.
One that many questioned at the time.
Yeah.
But Cawthorne argues that it was a necessary step for Cameron to become prime minister.
And it's a decision that highlights Cameron's pragmatism and his willingness to compromise to achieve his goals. It also speaks to his ability to navigate complex political situations and forge alliances even with those who hold opposing views.
But as with any political career, there were controversies and scandals.
Of course.
Cawthorne doesn't shy away from the phone hacking scandal that engulfed Cameron's premiership.
The phone hacking scandal.
The scandal involved Andy Coulson, Cameron's former communications director, who was ultimately convicted of phone hacking while working at the News of the World tabloid.
This scandal had a significant impact on Cameron's reputation.
It did.
Raising questions about his judgment and his willingness to overlook questionable behavior within his inner circle.
Cawthorne is critical of Cameron's decision to hire Coulson. Despite the rumors surrounding his involvement in illegal activities, arguing that it was a major lapse in judgment that ultimately damaged Cameron's credibility.
So, having delved into the complexities of David Cameron's life and career, what can we glean from Cawthorne's biography?
What insights does he offer about the man behind the public persona?
I think Cawthorn's most significant contribution is his challenge to the simplistic narrative of David Cameron as a self-made man. He meticulously lays out the advantages Cameron enjoyed from birth,
Right.
the network of privilege and influence that surrounded him,
Yeah.
and the economic policies that further benefited his family's wealth.
It's a nuanced portrayal that avoids hero worship or demonization.
Right.
Cawthorn presents Cameron as a complex figure.
Yes.
Ambitious and intelligent, yet also flawed and sometimes out of his depth.
He highlights Cameron's political successes.
He does.
By his ability to adapt and modernize the Conservative Party, and his undeniable charisma.
But he also doesn't shy away from the controversies, the scandals, and the questions surrounding Cameron's judgment and his commitment to ethical behavior.
Ultimately, Cawthorn leaves us with a thought-provoking exploration of power privilege and the complexities of navigating the British political landscape.
He does.
He challenges us to consider the impact of inherited advantages,
Yeah.
the role of image management, and the ethical dilemmas faced by those in positions of power.
And perhaps most importantly, he encourages us to think critically about how the past shapes the present.
It's all connected.
It is.
And to acknowledge the enduring legacies of history, both personal and societal.
It's a reminder that even in a seemingly rigid system like British politics, individuals can make a difference.
Right.
For better or for worse.
And that their actions and the choices they make have far-reaching consequences that extend beyond their own lives and careers.
Absolutely.
So for those interested in gaining a deeper understanding of British politics, the nature of power and the complexities of one man's journey to the highest office in the land, I highly recommend diving into Nigel Cawthorn's David Cameron Class Act.
It's a fascinating read that will leave you pondering the intricate interplay of privilege, ambition, and the enduring legacies of history.
I completely agree.
Well, that wraps up another deep dive.
Until next time.
Thanks for joining us.